to Sandy and Nora's podcast.
Hey, Nora.
Hey, Sandy.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm on vacation and it is a holiday today, so this seems very appropriate. But the craziest thing happened to me today.
Ooh, what's that?
Well, I have to get a monthly injection as part of my cancer treatment, and the injection isn't just a straight injection, it's actually an implant. It takes, usually a nurse has to do it or whatever. And so months ago, I booked the injection in Georgetown, where I'm from, where I am, and it was an amazingly easy process. I just called a walk-in clinic, and they're like, yep, no problem, we can do that for you. I got my time, and everything's fine. I go to the clinic this morning, and they're like, oh, you're from Quebec. And I was like, well, I made it clear I was not from Ontario, that I was coming from out of province. I'm even sure I said Quebec, but whatever, maybe I didn't. And she says, well, for you to get this injection, you have to pay $100. And I was like, what? And then she says, in cash.
That smells really wrong. That smells really... How could that... It's not passing the sniff test. Continue.
I was like, I'm sorry, I have to pay $100 in cash? And she's like, yeah, like Quebec's the only province that we're not set up on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but why cash? Well, that's just how it is. I was like, this is bullshit. Like, this is tremendous amounts of bullshit. Okay, I don't have $100 cash. It makes no sense. And so then I was like, okay, well, where do I get $100?
Like, could you have written a check?
I should have asked that, actually. That's a very good question. I was like, where do I get this money? She says, well, down like the strip mall block, there's an ATM. You can go get your cash there. So go to the ATM. It's out of order. So I go to the guy at the desk and I'm like, look, I need an injection. I'm at the health clinic down the street. They're making me pay $100 in cash. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Can you sell me $100? And he's like, let me see if I have it. I have it. Sure. So he sells me $100 for $102.
Wow.
What the hell? What the hell?
That sounds like a Canada Day story, if ever there was one. You are from Quebec. You will not be seen in Ontario unless you deliver $100 that cost you $102. That's kind of how Canada works, I feel like. That's, hey, that's great.
It definitely felt a little too on the nose, so I didn't like that.
Well, were you able to get it all sorted?
Well, yeah, I got my $100 for $102 and they were there and it was like, and I said to the doctor, I was like, you're charging people cash for this, right? And he kind of looked at me as if I started speaking Dutch and he just kind of nodded and was like, what? And I'm like, you have no idea. You don't know what's going on. Okay.
Oh, my
anyway,
God.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like something to get to the bottom of for a journalist out there. Because if you go to today, we're recording this on Tuesday, June 30th. So CBC's front page to see what the biggest news is. It's all America. It's all American. And I mean, that's not always the case, of course. Very recently, there was some major Canadian news for, the game that you love, to play, the World Cup. Canada did some things for the first time ever in not getting knocked out by South Africa. How did you feel about that? I'm not a big soccer person, but I know you are.
It was an amazing game. It was exciting. The Canadian team played really, really well. And Stefan Eustáquio, right at the end, in extra, not extra time as in extra overtime, but in stoppage time, gets that goal. And I have to say, if you're listening to us on Canada Day, you know that the Canadians will play again on July 4th. They're playing Morocco. It's gonna be a really hard game, but it was amazing. And you know what I thought was so crazy? There were two things that happened in this game happened related to this game that I just think are so indicative of all of the problems within this country. All right. The first problem, so Stefan Eustáquio is from Leamington, Ontario. He's an international soccer star. He plays, I think he plays in Portugal. I know he's Portuguese, but I also think he does play in Portugal. And I saw an interview with him with one of the Canadian journalists, and they were like, so, you know, your parents are both dead. Like, how does it make you feel to have scored that goal?
Oh.
With your dead parents watching you.
Oh.
Like, Buddy just did the greatest thing anybody could have done in that moment. And the journalists are like, hey, remember that time where both your parents were dead?
Oh,
which is right now.
God.
And of course he breaks down and it's like emotional. It's just so disgusting. Like, what is this? And then the next day, because I'm home, I get to read hard newspapers because you can't get the Globe and Mail east of Montreal in Canada. And the front page image for both the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star are the same. And it's a Getty image. It's not a Canadian press photographer, or at least it's not credited as such. It's not a Toronto Star or Globe and Mail photographer. It is a Getty image from Los Angeles. And it's like, what is happening here? We're not even sending photojournalists to watch our team play in Los Angeles in this historic run. And it's like, couldn't you even like sell those photos, Toronto Star and Globe and Mail, if you wanted to just make money off of them? Like, how completely backwards is stuff right now? And you can just see it on total display as Canadians are loving the World Cup, loving the fact that Canada is in the World Cup and is advanced to the round of 16. And, oh, no, we actually as a country don't really care about any of this stuff.
Wow. But, you know, like as a country actually is inaccurate, you know, like as a country's media, perhaps. But being in Toronto last week and back in LA today, wow, like it's so night and day, like the energy towards like, you know, this big sporting event that brings people together and is imbued with, of course, all sorts of, capitalist bullshit. But in terms of just the people feeling like some sort of excitement over these games that can really bring people together. Like, it was just so great to see so many people in their shirts, repping their countries, repping Canada or the countries where their families are from or where they're from. And then like televisions lining the street and people just watching outside. Like, it was really, really exciting to see that. And that like none of that is happening in LA. It's so weird to, you know, there's so much that in which like Canada has the exact same culture as the United States. It was kind of nice to be like, okay, here's something that sets us apart, that people kind of want to be happy and excited about these sports games. And so that, the country, in terms of our media, in terms of the corporate media, may not care, but people care for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Soccer Canada partnered even with an American company for a lot of its coverage of the Canadian games. So it's like right off the bat, our own institutions sell us out. It's one thing for Soccer Canada to I guess partner with an American company where they should be doing this with Canadians, but it's a whole other thing too for these like national newspapers and Toronto Star. I mean, you're kind of a national newspaper, to not be sending photographers or to not fight to have Canadian photographers covering this. Like, it's just crazy. And it just shows, and this is what we're talking about today, if you haven't figured this out, that we do not care about culture and about sport in this country. And if we did, things would be radically different. And it becomes on full display when you see how other countries react to certain victories or to certain things within the World Cup. Like, it's literally just, we're supposed to look at Mark Carney, who knows if he likes soccer. He gets to actually watch these games. None of us have the money or the luck to be able to watch these games, or most of us don't. And, you know, there's no public celebration. There's no day off after Canada wins. There's no gathering place in every town and city for people to come together and party and celebrate. Like, every single community in this country should have like a place that they've identified as where you're going to go if your country wins to celebrate. Right? Like, that's a normal thing that happens in other countries. Why doesn't it happen in Canada? Because you have to be intentional about it. And Canada doesn't actually care about any of this. I mean, it's so crazy because like watching watching the pride, I think you're so right. Watching the pride, watching all the flags, everybody's cars. This is always the case for the World Cup. It's exciting when you're into it. If you're not into it, it doesn't matter. Like it's not going to be bothersome if like a bunch of people are partying and you're left out. Maybe you become part of that. But if you're not intentional about these things, if you don't create the spaces for people to come together, then they don't. And it's just such a missed opportunity. And I think, again, it just shows exactly with how, like, what dire straits Canada really is in right now with its sporting and cultural institutions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I don't really follow soccer that deeply, and I'm a huge bandwagoner when it comes to sports, so I'm like into it now. But one piece of news that I saw on social media was that at some point during like one of these fan places outside in Toronto called Stacked, there was a surprise performance by Big Sean, who is a rapper from Detroit. And it's like,
what? Was it Windsor?
Y'all, like, Canada is, no, it was in Toronto. It was like, Canada is in the World Cup. The World Cup is happening in Canada. You don't think you could have gotten, like, I don't know, a surprise Canadian artist? I just feel like that feels obvious to me. Don't get it. I don't know why that's happening. But again, it feels like so much of how Canada does things. It's like, oh my God, big thing is happening. Many eyes are watching. What American can we get to validate us? It just seems like that's how we do. It just really, really feels like that's how Canada wants to be, which again, I mean, we've talked about this before, but it really puts into perspective when the United States is like, you should be the 51st state, and we like fully act like it, except for like with the patina of, no, we're different. It's just not good.
No.
And I mean, we, again, like I've said a couple times in this episode, like we are different in terms of the people and like what people believe and how people feel. But in terms of like what this country is doing, where this country is going, and how this country really does or doesn't support people, it's feeling very American.
So one of the things I've been thinking a lot about, I've written about this before, and I know you have a lot of thoughts and have done a lot of work in the cultural spaces that make you question things related to Canadian identity. It's kind of funny because we've been watching the World Cup, and I have to say, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this because this gets broadcast, but like I might be illegally watching it on a Canadian channel, streaming it amazingly. But it's great that I'm able to do that, because I was trying to find a French feed because my kids had friends over, and I was like, sorry, I can only watch the Canadian feed. I can only find an English feed. But anyway, so I'm watching all the commercials that are running as well, the Canadian commercials. I think it is fascinating to look at the commercials and to see what it says about the state of Canadian identity. Now, first of all, a lot of the commercials are using American or non-Canadian songs. Like, you would expect to hear some Tragically Hip. You would expect to hear some classic songs, maybe some Stomping Tom, maybe, I don't know, maybe something that sounds Canadian, maybe something that's from the East Coast. I don't know. I think I've heard like Men Without Hats Safety Dance in one of the commercials. There's a couple of other commercials that are just like American songs or not Canadian songs running in them for Canadian stuff. The Molson ads are so flimsy. It's like they asked Canadians to go out with disposable cameras and they took a bunch of like pictures with their fingers in it or whatever. And it's like, they're not even saying I am Canadian anymore. There doesn't seem to be anything to grab onto as a Canadian thing. And then like probably the most bizarre commercial, and I don't even know what it's for, but it's one of the players of the Canadian team that is like, that's flying a plane, and he's like being like gritty, like this is like gritty concrete Toronto, or I guess maybe Vancouver as well, but for me it like translates right to Toronto, and it's like it's as if he's about to crash the plane, and it's all dark and stormy, and he ends it with like, "Welcome to Canada. We do not hope you enjoy your stay," or something like this. Because I guess we're like gonna be like the team that's fighting, and they're wearing black this time, and they're like, "Yeah, we're in the dark storm," and it's like, who came up with this? And I'm telling you this story. I don't even know if it's a car commercial or if it's a commercial for Axe body spray or if it's for the actual word. Like, I have no idea what this is for, but it keeps coming on. And I'm like, what is this what we are right now? We are a concept that has nothing behind it, and advertisers aren't even able to express it. It's like, whoa, that's a real different location than where we've been for the last 30 years.
I'm kind of like,
I'm gonna look up that ad while you talk, because it's like sounds crazy.
It kind of does. I'm very confused about what you just said there. So very weird. Yeah, it's a bit depressing. It's okay. So this is like a weird location to be talking or a thing to be talking about, because, like, you know, Nora and I are not like nationalists. We're not like, yeah, Canada, yay for the Canada project. That's not what we're saying here. But this way that Canada like becomes the United States, which is what is happening more and more and more as time goes on, is worse than, well, I don't even know if it's worse, but it is another type of bad for a nationalism that pretends that it's something else, when really what it is just propping up Americanism. And I was like looking up that event that I just referenced, and it was like, it was an event that was put on, sponsored by Adidas, the Adidas Stage, which is, you know, also not a Canadian company, and the Adidas Stage sponsored by the Rolling Stones. It's just like all of this stuff that is very much not Canadian. And so, like, okay, are we arguing that all of this stuff should be Canadian? What I'm arguing is that if the best thing that a country like Canada could do is to support its people and what it wants, right? Like, yes. And that means that if you have people who are interested in playing sports, they should be supported by Canadian institutions that are investing in children's sports, in youth sports, in adult sports, and supporting people with doing that. And none of that is really happening. And then so you get this point where it's like, okay, now we're in the World Cup and we have nothing to really support this place that we find ourselves in, which Canada has never been in. And of course, with events like this, like global events where eyes are all over different countries in a way that generally we don't get an opportunity to do, and especially in Canada because we are hosting it, it's like, why wouldn't we support people who are struggling to create culture here? You know, like, we've got some amazing artists, like really great artists that should be promoted, who are from my city, from Toronto, like from Brampton. I would love to see Havaya Mighty or Toby or people like who are classics like Cardinal Official. Like, why wouldn't we have some of those artists be supported in supporting this World Cup type celebration? No, we've got to do America. Like, come on, come on. Like, why are we even pretending at this point, for Christ's sake?
It's totally crazy. Actually, I was at on the Plains of Abraham. Every summer, there's free concerts on Friday and Saturday night, or Thursday and Friday night, whatever. And this past week, Webster performed, and Webster is one of Quebec's highest profile rappers. It was very cool to see Webster perform in a space that is normally like, I don't know how to describe the acts that they usually have. There's a lot of like people that do covers, but in like 1930s and 40s kind of thing. So it was like a completely different musical act. And it's like, here's a guy who absolutely could be on, like, with national profile, talking about, I don't know what he thinks about soccer, but there's a lot of Quebecers that are on the national team. Like, it would be not hard to actually give someone like him the kind of profile that he deserves outside of Quebec, to talk about our national sports, and to talk about the fact that we do have this historic entry into the World Cup. I mean, it's just so lazy. And going back to the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail, like, don't they want that archive of photos of every one of the players doing different things in different games? Like, is that not a gold mine to then sell to Canadians after if they want them framed or plaqued or whatever? But, again, it's like, it's as if the World Cup's a good example of this because it is new to Canada in terms of like us actually being in it and being good. But it does expose like how so many other countries really do know who they are and why they exist, and how the people who support those countries in Canada have always been the ones to bring the World Cup spirit here. I was there when Italy won. I was in Little Italy, and it was like absolutely crazy. I can think of when Italy lost to Korea in my high school, and how there were only 2 Korean kids in my grade. And of course, it's a Catholic school. There's a million Italians, and the 2 Koreans like ran around the school with their flag. And it was so fun to watch them taunt the Italians for having lost. And I don't know, like for people listening outside of like the greater Toronto area, the fact that in Sandy, I don't know if you heard this, but the fact that the matchup in Toronto that's happening tomorrow on July 2nd is between Croatia and Portugal, like they could not have come up with a more perfect Greater Toronto Area ethnic matchup than those two.
Yeah, I did.
Than those two ethnicities. Oh my God.
Yeah, that is going to be incredible and biting. And so I'll definitely be looking out for like the footage of how that goes down. Hopefully from some Canadian outlets, but who knows at this point. And as you mentioned, like in terms of like how government supports the arts and so on, it's like this is pretty niche, but an issue that I realized last week while I was working in Toronto, I was working on some stuff for the Wild Seed Center for Arts and Activism, which is a community center that I helped to run. And, like community groups in Canada, community organizations and like heritage art centers, that kind of thing, they used to apply for capital support from the federal government through Heritage Canada. Heritage like supports cultural groups with capital support. The Carney government has ended that.
Of course they have.
The Carney government has ended that, and now these cultural groups will have to compete with business groups and apply for the same sort of capital support that business groups who, will have to show that they are, increasing jobs by, creating this much revenue for blah, 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 like the business cases for getting Canadian investment in capital funds. Art institutions are going to have to compete with the same programs. And I just talking to some granting officers and some other people who are frustrated about this in the city, and people are like, what are we going to do? Like, how does the government think that a jury that is poised to provide funding to groups based on how many jobs they can create and how useful, quote unquote, they are in an environment where the government is dumping so much into supporting AI and American business? Like, how can these small cultural centers compete with that for support from the government? And it just seems like another way that the government is really siphoning off what little support cultural institutions have in this country.
Oh, totally. Totally. It's like, it's so obvious that from the mind of a banker, this stuff's not all that interesting or important, and therefore it's going to be cut or rolled into other programs so that it can be cut. Like, let's be clear.
Just to put a finer point on what a big deal it is, like, this is a program that's run for decades. Okay. Decades. This is not a program that was like started by the last administration and is ending now. Like, it's been running for a very long time. There's like, there's a lot of institutions that really depend on this sort of funding year to year. And it's like, oop, it's gone. And, it's pretty shocking to people involved, both in the bureaucracy and for people who depend on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I have some information now on that commercial. If you had tortured me, I probably
Tell
wouldn't
me.
have come up with who did it. It was Nike. Nike. Mm-hmm. Okay. A shoe commercial. This is from Ads of the World. They explain a little bit about this campaign. It says, as part of Nike's global Rip the Script platform, Nike Canada has launched a campaign that playfully challenges the country's reputation for friendliness. That's what they're trying to do. The two pilots, I guess, I don't even remember Marie-Philippe Poulain being there. She's a hockey player. The other pilot was Dylan Brooks, not someone I know, but basketball player. And I guess Dylan's final line is what I tried to repeat. It says, "We hope you regret your stay," which is like, let's be playful about Canada and make it like a nightmare to come here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's super strange.
It's so strange. It's like they say the campaign extends beyond film, with a billboard at Sankofa Square in Toronto featuring Canadian national team players beneath the headlines, "Welcome to Canada, and we hope you regret your stay."
I mean, at least it's making you laugh.
It is so stupid. It's so stupid. And actually, I'll mention something else that's so stupid that's also so indicative of the moment that we're in right now. The Toronto Star was talking today about how Brad Bradford wants to rename Sankofa Square. Right, so this is formerly known as Yonge and Dundas Square. And again, it's like we just have no creativity. So Sankofa Square is a name that means reflecting on our past.
Yeah, it's a Ghanaian concept. It's like it's if you are familiar with the Dinkras, it's like there's an Adinkra for a Sankofa. Adinkra is like a series of images that have, or symbols that stand for some sort of concept, and the Sankofa is the Sankofa bird, which it shows like a bird that's kind of turned towards its tail, like its head is turned towards its tail, and the concept means looking back into the past as you move forward, like understanding from your past. And so that's where Sankofa comes from,
which makes sense because they're trying to replace the name Dundas, who had owned slaves in Canada's past. Okay, so Brad Bradford, who wants to be the mayor of Toronto, he wants to rename the square. Of course, he wants to put a police station at the square. He calls the square dirty and disgusting or broken or something like this. But Sandy, what do you think a guy named Brad Bradford wants to name that square?
Oh, I've already seen this. I'm pretty sure it's like the Toronto Square or something like that. But he's like, isn't it like the Toronto Square?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Toronto Square. Don't get confused, folks. It's just the Toronto Square in Toronto.
The Toronto Square in Toronto, next to the Toronto Metropolitan University and down the street from the University of Toronto. It's like, you guys.
And the Toronto Eaton Center.
Like, y'all. Come on. This is very, very funny. But also this whole, two things I think about this. Brad Bradford, what a weird guy. Like, what a strange man. I remember meeting him some time ago at a University of Toronto event this was before he was a counselor, and it was like an event or a class that was focused on equity and in the urban environment. And I remember him being very excited to meet me because of all the work I was doing and how intensely he felt about this is how he described himself about wanting to bring equity into the city, all of this stuff. And I guess he decided that persona didn't really work for getting elected, because ever since, he's become this super right wing, very much informed by the white supremacist right way of doing things. That's the kind of guy the kind of politician that he wants to be, which is masks off, I guess, power to you. But the other thing that's so strange is so exhausting how every politician right now in Canada and the US seem to really feel if they're right wing, the way to make their whatever they want to happen is to pick some fight about blackness, even if black people don't really care about it, because they feel like it'll start a thing. and it won't be useful for that. Like it won't be it won't be something that will actually harm them, or that's like economic or whatever. It's like an idea that they can just pick a fight with Black people because they feel like these fights with Black people make Black people feel seem irrational and make them seem like, oh, this is just common sense. We're just bringing back common sense to politics, whatever. And it's just like all of this stuff that can be done on top of the struggles of Black people. And it's also part of this white lash that exists. And, it's not unusual for Canadian politicians to be doing this. It's just like, so tired. Like I'm so bored by it. Like fucking figure something else the fuck out. Like why is it always like that's who you want to be? Like oh my God. How boring. How boring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's that, and then paired with the deep colonial approaches to everything, that Mark Carney has been very, very good to very quickly normalize, right? Going from a Justin Trudeau who used the promise of decolonization and, we're going to implement the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which of course they mostly did not. And then Carney walks in there and he's just like, well, true reconciliation's a pipeline, folks. Take it or leave it. It's like, wow, that was really smooth the way that he did that. And he hasn't really gotten any blowback. And in fact, if you challenge Carney on his environmental policies or on how pro-oil he's being, you get a lot of people defending the Liberal Party or defending Carney or saying it hasn't been long enough or whatever. It just shows how so much of the rhetoric around who we are as a country and what are the issues that we collectively need to grapple with. Like they're just surface issues. They don't go anywhere because our institutions are so hostile to them, right? Like our institutions do not care about reflection or calls to action or decolonization or anti-Black racism or incarceration or police violence, brutality, and murder. Like none of that. It doesn't care about any of that. We have been ridiculously reduced in this country to being a caricature of like elites that do whatever they want and people that find themselves walking into a health clinic and having to pay $100 in cash to get an injection. It's like, it's kind of stunning. And it kind of came to me in a really major way when, again, reading the newspaper, because I do get Le Devoir. I don't know if you saw me post about this, but I was really stunned by it. There was a full page ad in Le Devoir, and also I think it ran in the Globe and Mail as well in English, of a who's who, signed by a who's who of Canadian business leaders calling for an end to anti-Semitism. And not just anti-Semitism, but, at the end saying, join us to demand a Canada where every person can live in security and in dignity. And there are 76 signatories, and they are literally the elites in this country. Literally the elites. Like Jim Pattison is here. John Tory is here. Stephen Harper is here. The presidents of Metro, of director of McCarthy Tetro, from Stikeman Elliott, from a bunch of firms, a bunch of investment firms. I don't know, Gold Corporation, Kinross Gold Corporation. It's unbelievable. All the banks, most of the bank presidents are there too. This calls on who to do what exactly, when it's literally, this is the group of people. These 76 people and, a couple of others who are not signing this are literally who are to blame for the current economic situation, our current crumbling social situation, the fact that culture is not funded in this country. And if it's funded, it's only funded in very narrow and specific and irritating ways. They're the ones that have stopped tons of money being poured into cultural industries to be able to allow writers to live, right? Like we don't even pay authors anything anymore and they're expected to write books. And here they are in my newspaper saying, join us in calling for an end to anti-Semitism. As if they are not the drivers of the social disintegration that feeds anti-Semitism and racism and Islamophobia and homophobia and transphobia and all of the other hatreds. It's like, I felt like setting a newspaper on fire. seeing this come from this group of people who are literally the ones whose blood's on their hands. They are at fault in the most fundamental ways for all of the problems that we experience in society, including my $100 payment to my injection this morning.
Oh man. Yeah, that's like a stunning amount of, no self-awareness coming from that crowd. Not surprising. One of the things that I did when I came back from Toronto this week, one of the first things I did was I went to see this film screening. It was a documentary, and the documentary is called Earth's Greatest Enemy. It's by Abby Martin, and the documentary just talks about how the United States military is the largest polluter in the world, and just talks about how empire and continued neocolonialism is really a huge part of what is driving the climate crisis. And the fact that we don't talk about that, let alone talking about corporations and the support that governments give to corporations, it just means that we will fail, because we're not talking about one of the most important ways that the climate crisis is marching forward unabated. And there were two interesting pieces of that film that make me think about the conversation that we're having right now. One was a conversation at a climate conference that was being had where Mark Carney's at the helm. And I'm glad that, these American filmmakers saw fit to put him in the film because so many Americans, Mark Carney, Canada, the greatest thing about Canadian culture, the most successful thing, is the way that Canadians have painted themselves to be somehow better than the United States or different than the United States in ways that aren't really true, right? So it's Mark Carney. He's on stage and he's talking about what an incredible business opportunity is in front of us when it comes to climate, and how much investment can be made at a conference where there's a lot of sponsorship by big oil companies. So that's one. So that's a big piece of Canadian culture right now. And the other piece, it was a part where some folks from Japan were talking about how frustrated they were that Japan has just become a vassal state of the United States, which is really what Canada is and what Canada has become. And we've talked about that with respect to our military, but it is in everything. It is in how our media is run and who owns our media. Some of the most classic, recognizable Canadian companies even are all American companies. How much our healthcare system has bits and pieces of it being clawed into by American companies. Even the way that the state apparatus for policing and our military, of course, just operates in accordance with and in support of and through helping what is going on in the United States. And it's at a time like this, at this point in history, we have an opportunity to make some choices about how we want to move forward. And looking at truth and reconciliation, there's examples of this all over the world of places and peoples who have tried to reconcile with pasts and presents that continue to be oppressive and repressive to particular groups of people. And we can learn from that and say, we don't want to do this, we do want to do that, or whatever. And we're just marching along in the worst possible way, right? Just continuing on in the worst possible way. Is that the choice that we want to make about this? Looking around at who makes up Canada and the kinds of things that we need in this country as a country that is so vast and it depends on immigration, the way that we have shifted how we discuss immigration and migration from when I was a kid to today, like how hostile people have become to migration. Like, this is who we want to be. We want to be the people who discover Canadian artists because Americans discover them first and make them big. Like, that's who we want to be in everything from comedy to hip hop and rock music and even country music, like whatever it is, you know, we're discovering Canadian artists from Americans and some of the biggest artists in the world, actors, visual artists, dancers, all of it. It's like, why? Like, what is the purpose of this whole project then? Like, what is it? Is it just mining? Because it kind of seems like it's just mining at this point. Like, what? And oil and gas. Like, what is that? Is that the Canadian project? Is just extraction, resource extraction?
Yeah. I feel like I have to put my my union president hat on. As the president of the Canadian Freelance Union, we represent 80 sketch comics, stand-up artists, stand-up comedians, and other comic workers. And it's the most frustrating thing to see people, to see funny people have to make it in the United States, because I do think one of the big differences between Canadians and Americans is we're actually funny. But we should be able to make it in Canada, and we should not be at the whim of these tiny, tiny industries that are brutal in their practices. And you see it in comedy, you see it across the arts, you see it you see it in writing. I can't think too hard about my own writing career because it'll make me jump off a cliff. Like, it is brutal out there. We are paid virtually nothing. And I think I'm sure we've mentioned this on the show before, but I think it's worth mentioning, given that today is Canada Day. Like, Canada, from its inception, has always been attached to the country on the top of the global order. Like, from our earliest days as a British colony, as England was rising to become the global order country, to then shifting right to the United States when England's sun was setting and the United States star was rising. We have always, always, always been a vassal state for the most powerful country on the planet, as Canada, as the conception of Canada, as in the modern, notion of this country. And I think that the fact that we are standing on the precipice of not being that lapdog, we'll still be a lapdog for sure, but we will be a lapdog to a country that is no longer at the top of the global trash heap, I think is a fundamentally scary proposition for business leaders, for politicians, for, pretty much anyone that knows what you get out of being a lapdog. Now, the problem with being a lapdog is you don't control a lot of your own life. Like, you are at the whim of whoever's dog you are. And we will continue to be the lapdog of the United States, but their power is slipping. American hegemony is slipping. And it's not even like there's going to be a country that comes out on top anytime soon. This multipolar international order is probably going to be the status quo for a little bit of time until something else changes. We have to have an idea of who we are and why we exist as these global poles shift. If you listen to Mark Carney, he believes that we exist to power the United States and Western Europe, to sell our stuff to the United States and Western Europe, to maybe sell our stuff to some places in Asia if the winds are going well or not. But that's it. It's ripping and it's stripping our resources, our talent, and just put it onto barges and ship it out into the sea to whoever is going to pick it up, whoever's going to buy it. And that is death to the Canadian project. And Canadians don't support it, right? Elbows Up, as stupid as Elbows Up was, it tapped into a very real fear and a very real spirit of Canadian identity that needs to be nourished. Because if it's not nourished, it will become an absolutely rotten bunch of shit that is going to cause so much trouble to our social cohesion and social solidarity in this country that that we will have no idea how to deal with it. We're already seeing creeping fascism. And if we don't get a handle on who we are as a country, why we exist, what we collectively believe in, and what we collectively want for the future of our economy, of our own families, of our provinces, of our cities, of our towns, of our rural communities, then we are totally sunk.
Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day, Sandy.